Amanda.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching the Apothecary Diaries, Season 1, Episode 18. Last episode, Jinchi asked Mao Mao a quite unpleasant question.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at.
Yep. I've had some thoughts since last episode. Yeah. One is a compliment thought. A compliment to the writing of the Apothecary Diaries. We have spent 17 episodes now showing the viewer a comparison, parallels between courtesans and concubines, gardens within cages. But now we're taking a turn. We're showing some of the differences here, and that is the idea of pregnancy. Pregnancy to a concubine of the emperor is a safety net, is ensuring that you are within his good graces, you are giving him an heir. We've spent episodes focused on, can Lady Luiha give birth again? What happened when Aoduo gave birth? Gyokyu has a child. And now we're on the topic of, but what if it was a courtesan? It's a different world there.
I mean, you have completely different, not only means of delivering a baby and what the idea of pregnancy means to that courtesan or the concubine, but more importantly, in the case of the Apothecary Diaries, focusing in on Mao Mao and Jinchi, it's the reception of how that baby was born and what privilege and care and the idea that we've theorized about of who Jinchi potentially really is the son of, and the potential swapping of babies out of certainty of higher privilege of a doctor versus the potential pregnancy of Mao Mao's mother that led to a birth that Mao Mao's mother would have only seen and felt as a decrease of their own value and status in life. It's wild.
My other thought is about something else that Mao Mao brings up in this conversation is the differences in courtesans. Like, while we talk about the concubines in the rear palace, there are ones that are more likely to be visited by the emperor. Within the courtesans within Verdigris House, there are courtesans that do not have to use their body. They do not sell their body. They are able to use a talent of sorts. When we start hearing about Mao Mao's mother, all I can have in my head is a picture of a high-class, high-ranking courtesan that does not have to. A high-ranking courtesan that would maybe use their talents and their intelligence
to entertain the guests.
To entertain their guests.
Yeah. Interesting.
To entertain their guests. And that leads me to the theory a little bit more about love being involved. Because if she did not have to, then why does Mao Mao exist?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm scared to learn why. I have bad feelings. You ready?
Okay feelings. Yeah.
Sweet.
One line that I can't totally unpack and figure out is when Mao Mao tells us that she has no mother. And I feel like I have evidence that points to to her mother. Does her mother still exist? Does her mother not? That line definitely evokes that her mother died. Did her mother die during childbirth? But what about the bandages in the opening?
That's not what it means to me. When I hear I have no mother, it's just I've had no mother within my life.
Like disassociative, or I just haven't grown up with a mother figure.
I think Mao Mao is extremely literal. And I think the most literal interpretation, believe it or not, I don't think is death. I think the most literal interpretation is that I only have a father.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Jinchi wanted to say more.
Mm-hmm. If I were him, I'd want to skip whatever meeting I had and follow her.
I'm worried about how Mao Mao's feeling. Yeah. No apparent emotion.
Mm.
She tried to kill Mao Mao? The pinky again.
Okay, don't cry.
It doesn't surprise me that she tried to kill Mao Mao based off of resentment, but the pinky, was it an injury from then?
Or was it a memory of the positive or a love before that?
Interesting. One or the other offer. It might parallel Mao Mao's mom with what we heard from Lakan about the two different love interests.
Yeah.
I cannot believe this is happening.
I have chills and I want to cry. Illness. It's an illness.
Her memories are in shreds.
Customers back again.
泥のかかった看板をかけていた時期がある。この妓女はその数年間に客を取り、不幸にも梅毒を移された。
Wow.
親父が六章館を訪れた頃は、ちょうど病が潜伏期間に入っていたらしい。病状を伝えていれば対処もできただろうが、突然現れた元宦官の男を皆が素直に信じるはずがなかった。数年後、再び発疹が出始めると、腫瘍は瞬く間に広がった。
Wow, the selective color.
客の目の届かぬこの離れに押し込められている。どうした？姉さんに言われて。
Lakan?
So you shouldn't go out there.
Is Lakan here just because Mao Mao's here? The whole good nose on him?
Good nose on him.
ここにいればあの客が来ることはない。六章館の顧客で古い馴染みの
An old acquaintance. What is she trying to say, or is it just repetitive motion?
Playing.
Is it cause Lakan's here that she heard? Same shot, right?
So when we've seen her hide in the annex, is it because
Lakan.
he's there?
よかった。姉さん今日は具合良さそうね。姉ちゃんよく付き合えるね。そう？おばばも金払いさえ良ければ何も言わないし。ババアが私を妓女に従うのはそういうことだろうね。望み望まれを願って叶う妓女がどんだけ少ないかわかる？ババアなら陰の重みでそんなもん蹴り飛ばすからね。極楽行きの船賃を溜め込んでるから仕方ないわよ。もう少しだけこの仕事続けるわ。メイメイ姉ちゃんの感情は私にはよくわからない。深く考えたくもない。もしそれが恋というものだとしたら、そんな感情はきっと
I left
私を産んだ
Oh my god.
できてしまった。久しぶりに背中流そうか。
まさか待ち合わせの店が花街のような接待をしていたとは。そんなものを買いに行ったわけじゃないのに。
And Mao Mao hoped you had a good night.
Come on, Jinshi.
睡蓮と飲んでくれ。変人からの
From a weirdo.
変人からですか。ありがとうございます。それでは仕事に戻りますので。
He really wants to talk to her.
今夜は精進料理だから。
Woo!
しまった。仕事してればすぐに頭から離れると思ったんだけど。
変な草を物置に隠すのもダメよ。
気が抜けない。
置き場所がないなら、神師様にお願いして余ってる部屋を使わせてもらったら？
いえ、鬼人の住まう場所を。
Yes, you can.
私は卑しい生まれの娘ですから、ここにいるのも本当に不思議な縁です。
でも、尊い生まれだからといって、最初から別のものだと思わない。
Ooh.
何がどう転がって人生どうなるかなんてわからないもの。身分だけで何でも分けるのはもったいないわ。
ヤブ医者が管理する高級の医局とは大違いだ。
So organized.
が近くて怪我人も多いから。
Oh, that's fair.
いや、ダメだ。何やってるの？ あの時の
The tall one.
来ていたのか。
詰所の常備薬をいただきに。
あ、
詰所？
The guardhouse.
そういえば以前あったのも軍部の近くだったな。薬草の匂いがしたのは軍部に勤めているからか。
本来なら感情なんてやらなくていいのに。なんでもない。それより薬だろ。
She's doing something that a court lady shouldn't be doing. And it's by the military. And she told Mao Mao not to go any further.
Do you think it's in direct connection with the con?
神師様の薬だよな。考えてみたら神師様は不可解な点が多い。半月に一度ほど定期的に回ってくる仕事もそうだけど、前日からゆっくり湯あみをしてこう炊いて出かけて、精進料理もそう。まるでみそぎだ。宦官も妻子をやれるのだろうか。高貴な人物であればおかしくない。これほどの男がなぜ宦官に？神師様も先の皇太后、女帝の一存で宦官にされてしまったのだろうか。親父のように。
あの娘の養父は元宦官で医官だそうだ。
元医
Both
官
thinking about each other.
あの知識は納得がいきますが、元宦官ですか？
What little wisdom pellets do you have for us today?
本当に随分悪どいことをされたようですね。
失礼な。トンビには言われたくない。
From a thief.
10年以上かけてようやくやり手ババアを説得したのに、横からかっさらわれた身にもなるといい。
油揚げを返せと。
Your prize.
いくらでも出しましょう。
Wants Mao Mao so bad.
同じ鉄は踏みたくないのでね。
Repeating my past mistakes.
あなた様に逆らえるものなど片手の指ほど
You.
存在しない。
Yikes.
やはり俺の正
Who I
He does
really,
know
yeah.
who I really. Oh my god.
I cannot believe this is happening.
What
What
my daughter would think.
豪華なのですけど。
はあ、嫌だ。つまりそういうことだ。
He's been leading you here. Oh my god.
ラカンはマオマオの実の父親だ。
I want to throw something against a wall. And that wall is Lakan. Push him down the stairs.
娘にそのうち会いに行くと伝えていただけますか？
No.
では。
The Verdigris house has been keeping him away from her, and now that she's here and he's here, they can't be there to protect her anymore. Jinshi's the wall
I think something
now.
needs to be said.
前から話している変人だ。名はラカンという。
Mao Mao knows. Oh, fuck!
どうにか断っておく。
ありがとうございます。
Holy
仕事に
shit!
戻りますので。
What was that?
Let it slip.
あんな顔は初めて見た。もう
And I never want to see it again.
やっぱり気づかれてたか。
You think we're gonna see Suire again?
おい、薬草畑だ。ここにも、そこにも、あそこにも。またあなたなの？
Oh Oh,
Your
now she
sight.
looks so scary.
これはどう見ても怪し
Maybe this is her special supply of
安
herbs
心し
and
て
you're
ください
ruining it.
まだ何も取ってません
Yeah.
その手の汚れ今から取ろうとしてたと認識していいかしらだね私も好きなものを植えさせてもらっているだけ
雑草だけを選んで抜いている
よみがえりの薬
それは死者が蘇ることのできる薬そんなものが実在するなら喉から手が出るほど欲しい
冗談よ
冗談
あなたクス師って聞いたけどどれほどの腕前なのかしら
Are we gonna collab?
そうもう少し先の話だけどここに朝顔を植えるわそれじゃ
Significance to morning glories other than morning?
Okay, that was the Apothecary Diaries Season 1, Episode 18. That was easily, I think, probably the most important episode of this entire show. And right off the bat, I need to go to around 18 minutes and watch that expression from Mao Mao.
Mm-hmm.
Because, oh my lord, was it powerful. Holy shit.
God. I'm with Jinshi. I don't think I ever want to see it again.
It felt like, for 2 frames, I was watching a completely different show. It makes a lot of sense, and this episode gave me so much confirmation that I didn't think I'd get in the form of how much Mao Mao knew. How keen Mao Mao is, and how much of a don't go there topic it's consciously been thought about.
Yeah. And she kind of knew it was a matter of time, interestingly enough, that he would find her, and he would know that she was here and with Jinshi.
What do you think Jinshi can or will do anything significant without any risk of Lakan retaliating with who Jinshi is?
I don't know how... Okay. Lakan is... Let's call him a strategic businessman. He's high-ranking. I don't think that he would divulge anyone's big secrets unless something was of big worth to him. And if he... Which is... Yes, I'm going in the direction of he is consistently showing up at the Verdigris house. We had a line about Mao Mao getting an offer of some sort. Do you think he's offering to, like...
Oh, no, for sure.
Buy her?
Yeah.
And has been?
Yeah.
And he said to Jinshi, like, he has this energy of, like, I want my daughter back. I want to make up for my past mistakes. Like, this is something that seems to be exceedingly important in his life. And when you ask, would he do something like divulge Jinshi's secret to try to get an upper hand on Jinshi in any way?
In retaliation.
In retaliation for being kept from Mao Mao?
Yeah, if after this scene, Jinshi immediately replies with, I don't want to see that again. And then to Mao Mao, I will do what I can to keep that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot different than I'm putting my fucking foot down. You are not talking to her ever again. And like, if he was to take a step into that realm, because of his position, it might be a little weird for him to put such a massive foot down in his quote-unquote position. But because of that, Lakan would have, therefore, ammunition to combat why he'd be so protective as a eunuch.
Right. But what good would it do in terms of giving Lakan what he wants in order to retaliate in that way? Just like a mind game, a chaos
it would put
theory.
Mao Mao's existence on such, like, okay, think about the
Like, should
conversation
Mao
we had
even be
with
allowed to be
Soirei. Yeah. No. Like, think about the conversation we had with Soirei about, like, place of birth, right?
Mhm.
And
Oh,
where...
Surin?
Yeah. How do you pronounce it?
Soirin?
Soiri?
And then
Soireen? And Soirei.
Soirei was the tall
Gotcha.
girl.
Soireen and Mao Mao, and the conversations about positions of birth, and then being able to use what you have in an opportunistic way. Within that context, I think that you would have Jinshi putting Mao Mao's presence at the same, like, on a scale as the same weight as who Jinshi really is, which is kind of a wild thing to do within the palace, but obviously we've seen their relationship, so we know more. But it's fascinating. It's fucked.
It adds some chaos in there.
Oh my god.
If Jinshi's secret were to come out, it would definitely add a lot of chaos. I would like to go back before we like continue talking to the moment where Mao Mao speaks on love. It's like 10, 17, earlier than that, probably at 10.
That's an emotion I'm sure I left behind in the womb of the woman who birthed me.
Yeah. I was wondering, I mean, obviously this whole time up until episode 18, what it is about Mao Mao that is why she couldn't understand necessarily Fang Ming's reasoning for doing all that she did for Ao Duo, and how she has never felt that same way towards someone else. What does love even feel like? And what kind of medicine would it make? All of these things. I've been trying to piece together exactly why she would have such a kind of lack of ability to bond that strongly with someone. And I kind of chalked it up at the beginning because we didn't know her circumstance like we do now. That is it because of not knowing her parents and being raised by like an adopted father? Is that an element here? Is it more of a disposition and a personality choice by the writer? Like, what was the secret here?
I think a lot goes into it, including what you just said, but also living around and being around friends as courtesans. You have an interesting view and relationship on the coming and going of fleeting emotion and the lack of real examples of what that would look like in front of you. And if you want to take it a step further within this episode, the idea of the emotion of love is very much so tied together with intimacy and potentially pregnancy, and knowing that one of, if not the first memory Mao Mao has is something that should be, or you would think would be conceived out of love, or an idea of love, like looking your child in the eyes for the first time and wanting to hold them to your chest. Rather than that, it's looking at the child that you just have and having a knife in your hand, wanting to take out what they potentially, quote unquote, or did to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and before getting into this episode, I had started to say during the opening, like, oh, well, if we get this idea that Mao Mao's mom played a lot of shogi and go and was more of an intellect that people wanted to converse with, and that's why they'd go to her. And we had the lines from Mao Mao describing to Jinshi kind of the different levels of courtesan and what they do in order to make money. But then Mao Mao says, like, one of the first things she says when she starts talking about the subject in this episode is that this was back when her mother was working, which makes me think that maybe it was like the Verdigris house wasn't the same status. They weren't able to be so like choosy like that. Maybe that's the case. Maybe I took what Mao Mao had said last episode to literally, like, if you are this type of courtesan, then you won't do this other type of work. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It could just be like that this was a while ago, maybe towards like an earlier period of the Verdigris house. Maybe it was work that Mao Mao's mom chose to do in order for the offers and the money that come from it. I'm not sure.
How do you think the timeline of syphilis lines up with Mao Mao's birth?
I don't know.
Okay. It's interesting. Do you think we're going to hear more about it?
In terms of trying to cure it?
No, like in terms of like the timeline. Like it feels like on first watch, it felt like Mao Mao was given birth to, and then the syphilis was perpetuated. But then obviously with Mao Mao's connection to her father, you would take a step back and be like, how did this chronologically play out?
Yeah, I don't have any inkling of like being able to guess how that played out from the episode. I apologize.
No, you're good. I'm trying to see because at the same time though, in Mao Mao's flashback, no, yeah, okay. When Mao Mao's a baby, her mom already has syphilis seemingly, because we can see her bandaged hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if we get a close up of Mao Mao's mom's eye, and then the bandages leaving her wrist as she's holding the knife. Interesting.
It's crazy to me. I don't know if it's crazy to me, but I just want to talk on it. We have this character, Mao Mao, and if we separate the fact that she was raised by a doctor for being her, that I don't think of that as her driving force reason for her love of medicine and herbs and all of that. I don't take just being raised by a doctor as why that is the case. I think that as soon as we start playing with the idea of someone saying very strongly that they do not feel love, they cannot feel love, they left that behind, I have no mother, you know that like deep down there's probably still something of a bond, something of a I wish that I could make you better. And Mao Mao is constantly practicing on her arm. We have her arm wrapped up in bandages. Her mother is wrapped up in bandages. There's similarity there in just like character design of having bandages on them or wounds on them, you know, rash-like wounds on them. Which is almost like a form of visual connection. And Mao Mao brings up as she's giving the medicine that if her father had gotten here sooner or knew what it was, he would have been able to cure it.
Or if they had a little bit less reluctancy to a eunuch showing up from where.
Yeah.
What do you think Suire's like doing within going to get, like, we get the line, a court lady shouldn't be doing this. I wonder why she seems to dislike me. She was there to resupply the medicines at the guardhouse. What's your interpretation of that?
That she's there to resupply the medicines at the guardhouse?
Yeah.
What are you trying to get at?
That he was like, she shouldn't be doing this. A court lady should not be doing this.
Yeah, but she's a standout court lady anyway. I'm taking it more like she, luckily enough, has the ability to kind of, within her way of knowing how to move about the world, still do what she wants to do. It's almost like a good example to Mao Mao of Mao Mao, like, if you want to be within this world, within the palace and the courts, and you don't want to lose who you are, these are ways that you can hold on to it still. She's able to still be given permissions for certain things. But now we know from talking to her character that her focus with herbs and medicines is that she wants to resurrect someone.
I mean, who wouldn't be interested in that?
I mean, if it really existed, there would be a lot of people that would be interested. I am too terrified about the ideas of zombies and zombie apocalypse and things of that nature to ever even dream of wanting to resurrect someone.
Yeah. I'm going back quite a bit to episode 13 when we get the interaction between Suire and Mao Mao where she hits Mao Mao in the back of the head, and we get a short description of how she smells. I'm trying to pull it up. The scent of sandalwood mixed with another distinctly bitter smell. What was our reaction to the potato?
Oh, well, the potato flower Mao Mao was like, oh, is this for Jinshi? It must be for a ritual. When she's within the doctor's office, she says that it smells bitter in here, and she loves the smell.
Gotcha.
So it's more so she's beginning to link in this moment that there's something to do with, like, herbs and medicine here.
But this is one of the first times that we really get a look on Lakan, like, watching that interaction go down. I wonder if there is a connection between Suire and Lakan and what that would be, and how, if that does exist in a parallel world, what it could be like a very prophetic character in terms of Mao Mao's future. Like when we get the conversation earlier with Mei Mei about like just a few more years I'm working here, then I'm going to retire, talking about like the idea of somebody buying you out, and like you get there aren't often times that a courtesan gets everything they want. Like, what does getting everything they want within this instance look like? Could Suire, like, granted, she's what is her character going to be going forward to Mao Mao? Like, I think that it's like her disdain for Mao Mao off the bat seems specifically different than any other court lady within that group.
I don't think she has disdain for Mao Mao.
No, I'm talking about their first interaction. I'm pretty sure Mao Mao says, "Why does she have disdain for me?"
Yes, but think back to when Mao Mao met all of Gyokyu's ladies in waiting.
Yeah.
She completely misread how they felt about her.
Yeah.
They thought they didn't want Mao Mao there helping.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Suire has a disdain for Mao Mao. I'm saying that Mao Mao reads it as disdain. So what is that actual feeling?
Oh, okay. That actual feeling is probably just a personality, like, you can't tell exactly how she feels type person. But I would say that she feels some sort of probably affinity for Mao Mao, like they have similar interests, or at least maybe Mao Mao can be useful to her. She says that you were an apothecary. She's
just how good are you?
Just how good are you? It might just be like, would you be useful to me?
I probably incorrectly, upon hearing it, got a feeling of like she has good intuition and she has bad feelings about like who Mao Mao is to either Lakan or what her situation's gonna be like.
Gotcha. I feel like that's jumping pretty far.
That's fair.
Because we've had no interaction with her and Lakan in the same room.
Yeah.
But she does know that Mao Mao's an apothecary, so, like, is that information that since our first meetings with all the court ladies who didn't know who we were and were like, why are you here? Is that just information that has now been spread throughout different groups of people? Or is it more so people that she's in close contact with know that Mao Mao is an apothecary?
Interesting. This is such a massive episode to me.
I know. I feel like there's probably still so much to say, and I can't even... Here's a plus in the romance department. We brought up previously in some other episode, I brought up previously in some other episodes how the writing was getting us closer and closer to having Jinshi and Mao Mao be on somewhat of a footing or balanced standing where a relationship with the two of them or a love between the two of them wouldn't feel too uncomfortable in the power dynamic department. And even within this world, within the status department, when Mao Mao first comes here, Jinshi puts on the table for her to take the court lady exam, which I feel like definitely would have helped her, except not with who Jinshi really is. I don't know if it would have helped her, but if Jinshi is who he is, maybe he is allowed to just marry whoever he wants or love whoever he wants. Not exactly sure what the rules are and the traditions are, but court lady would have definitely helped things. Mao Mao did not pass. But if Lakan were to make public that he is the father of Mao Mao. Even if he didn't, just the fact that a high-ranking official within the court is the father of Mao Mao is definitely helpful to her status if this is a romance.
I think Mao Mao would reject it.
That doesn't matter. She doesn't have to say, yes, you're my dad, now we're gonna hang out all the time and do dad and daughter things.
Does that sort of thing often happen in, like, romance anime? Like,
what?
Like, you're talking of, like...
Dads?
No, like, status being raised by somebody you have massive disdain for.
I don't think I've ever really seen any that had status and kind of power differences and dynamics really before. Oftentimes, romance anime is just two students maybe in the same grade. Maybe one of them's on the student council.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the power dynamic there, but oftentimes I would say age is what is used in that regard. And sometimes that can get to an unsavory kind of place where it maybe doesn't feel amazing. This is one of my first instances where it's like, this is royalty and a commoner.
Yeah. I wonder if Lakan would go to the Emperor ever about Mao Mao if Jinshi was not budging. Like, you're spending over a decade at this.
Okay, so going to the Emperor, the best thing you could say to hurt Jinshi if you're going to the Emperor is to convince the Emperor that Jinshi's not doing his job that the Emperor has tasked him with, which is to be the gardener of the garden. And if Jinshi is preoccupied, or if Jinshi's status comes out, that's something the Emperor probably wouldn't want, is Jinshi's status to be known. Because one of the reasons he's able to function as the gardener within the rear palace is because no one knows who he is. So then they try to flirt with him.
But with how Lakan operates, it's very much under the table in the sense of, like, it would either be how we alluded to, yeah, he seems distracted lately, or as severe as it would get, I imagine, would be, I heard the apothecary spreading rumors that Jinshi isn't actually who he says he is. Whether that be conjecture, truth, or not. Because if you implant that within the Emperor's ear, then the Emperor might try to do something to Mao Mao or reallocate her.
I think Lakan wants his daughter alive.
Yeah,
he
of
wants
course.
her.
Yeah, of
so
course.
He would not do anything that he thought could risk her head. And we've been told by Mao Mao countless times that even the smallest mistake in this world that she's in could result in her death.
Yeah.
And she's already asked Jinshi to be poisoned.
No,
so
I
don't
you.
think that he would say anything that would have that result.
I agree. That's why I said it farthest way it would go. Like, that's like the most drastic. I don't think that would happen. I think it's much more reasonable as a distraction. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he knows what cards he can play, and he's going to do the safest ones possible to get to his goal, which he could want her to be fired and have to go back to the Very Degree house, because then maybe his options. Yeah. Then maybe his offer would finally work.
I feel like we need to know a little bit more about Lakan in terms of, would he rather play a game where if he doesn't win, then he moves on, or if he doesn't win, he's going to make it so nobody wins?
Who knows if he's even thought about the fact of him not winning in the end.
I don't know. Wild.
Mm-hmm.
I think that quick flash of Mao Mao's expression is going to be haunting me for a while, in terms of, like, I don't want to have her feel that way again. One of my favorite pieces of this episode was at the beginning of Mao Mao walking away from Jinshi and then looking back. I thought that it was so interesting when Mao Mao said it's fine. I pulled it off with no apparent emotion. That was the first step into what this episode was going to be for me. I feel like that was the door swinging open within Mao Mao's inner emotions that we haven't seen to this degree.
We're with Mao Mao finally touching upon emotions and like starting to tell through internal dialogue, starting to tell the viewer, and the viewers getting a look into it, and then we're getting scenes in the annex and actually getting to see what's in the annex and actually getting to see Mao Mao reacting to the idea of Lakan wanting to meet with her. We are being confronted, I think, with emotionally what is the wall. Like, what is actually there? I feel like this whole series so far, there's been moments where it feels like Jinshi and Mao Mao are on this, like, they're parallel lines, you know, they're getting to know each other, they're understanding each other, and then there are little moments of misunderstanding things about each other, or misunderstanding circumstances, or maybe realizing just how far away they actually are, and then we come back together a little bit. And this is one of those moments where I'm like being confronted as a viewer what the actual blockade is. It's like Jinshi can keep going forward, but now we've reached Mao Mao's like stopping point in terms of like continuing forward in a connection or a bond between her and Jinshi. We have now been confronted with the stop.
Yeah.
How do we get over that stop? Just in terms of character writing, I might have said it before, but just with the personality of Mao Mao and any other character that I can think about that might be similar, I feel like it has to be from a place where they don't even have time to think about it. It's like a knee-jerk reaction moment where your care for that person becomes undeniable for you because some harm is coming to that person, and you want to jump in and say something or protect them or keep that from happening.
Yeah.
Knee jerk, not thinking about it.
Mao Mao seems like the person to throw herself in front of the bus.
That's what I'm picturing.
That's scary.
I'm picturing, like, at the moment with how the trajectory is going, is I'm picturing a moment where something with Jinshi's at risk, whether everyone knowing who he is and that foiling any kind of... Because Jinshi says he has to be this gardener. He has to do what the Emperor wants so that he can get what he wants. Do
you think that Mao Mao would have feelings other than what her role is and what her status is? Like, in the idea of throwing herself in front of the bus, it comes off more to me as like, yeah, of course I would do that. That's the obvious choice. I am this person to you. I would, like, that's my role, rather than, oh, I'm feeling love. Like, you know.
It'd be unpacked later, but I think what I would want to bring up is in episode 1, we are told how Mao Mao tries to function in this world. And that is self-preservation, pretend you're ignorant, let no one know what you're capable of, and never get attached.
Yeah.
And so the moment that she'd risk her life for this person, I think she then might start to think about it a little bit.
Interesting.
Because she knows her status. And if she is the one to blame for something, she will accept the punishment for that because she knows her status.
Part of me wonders if it's going to come out of the reevaluation and lean into thinking more about who Jinshi is. Like, we get a little bit of wandering curiosity here from Mao Mao, and obviously Jinshi's curiosity has taken him a step further towards confirmation, but Mao Mao is just wondering about rituals and the idea of when Jinshi would have became a eunuch, and stops there at the moment. But upon reevaluating that further, or getting more evidence to push herself forward, I think that could also imagine what Mao Mao's reaction to her being where she is within Jinshi's circle after a realization of who Jinshi really is. Do you think it'd be like, ew, like, or why am I, like, you know?
At the moment, I can't even begin to fathom how they're gonna go with that character's reaction to Jinshi's status. Sureen, in their conversation in the kitchen.
Can we reread it real quick? I had it pulled up because I wanted to talk about it.
Thinking about it in terms of where the conversation is currently going.
Yeah, nobody knows how a person's life can twist and turn. Separating everything based only on status can lead to missed opportunities.
Really? Yes, really. Okay. We know that there's a ritual coming up. And we know that Mao Mao knows that depending on the ritual, there are certain people who should and should not be there for that ritual, especially if it's a big deal. And I think that this could be the moment or time where Mao Mao pieces it together. We do know that Jinshi has been seen before as the little brother to the emperor, with some sort of disguise or changing of appearance or dressing differently. Because when we had the tea party, it was like, he was right there. Where'd he go? So obviously people had seen him. And we know that Jinshi had quickly disheveled, quickly changed his clothes. So what if it is that Mao Mao sees this ritual or attends this ritual and recognizes the Emperor's little brother as being Jinshi?
I also think this conversation could have opened up an opportunity in the future for Mao Mao to ask something more of Jinshi that isn't necessarily as on the nose as letting me use one of your spare rooms as a greenhouse, or a medicine cabinet. I think that the idea here, I don't know what it would be, but this conversation here of separating everything based only on status can lead to missed opportunities would lend itself to Mao Mao stepping in and asking something of Jinshi, whether it's attendance in something or access to something or responsibility.
She did ask him, with no words, to keep Lakan away from her if Jinshi has any.
I don't think she did.
Or just don't talk to her about it. I
don't think it was even that. I think it was I could totally be wrong with it, but it was I think that's what, of course, if I get that look from Mao Mao, that's what I'm thinking, oh shit, I shouldn't touch on that. That's not because Mao Mao intended for me to get that feeling. That's because I touched something that shouldn't be touched. I think that innate, that's why it was so quick. It was like a flash, oh shit, and then suppression again of my true emotion. And I think that's why Jinshi responded in such a protective manner of I won't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Missed opportunities. Lakan having regrets from his past. Status. What I asked it last episode, I was what are the actual parallels between Mao Mao's parents and Jinshi and Mao Mao? What are the things that are going to weave in this story that are going to be even remotely talking or similar to those of her parents? This episode, I feel like I have been almost off because this episode, it's some of my theories went out the window because I got confirmations about things, but then the rest of me is just kind of overwhelmed with what this means for the future, and also kind of scared. Not about Lakan. I'm not scared about him. I'm scared about the now being confronted with Mao Mao's the stop in the emotions, the stop in continuing a bond or continuously growing closer with another individual. I am excited to see where this goes, but at the moment my brain is just I don't even know. It's a bunch of white noise at the moment. Static.
I did just want to bring up the idea or the question, if the informing Mao Mao that the weirdo with the monocle is here, if it was a direct response to somehow hearing that Mao Mao's mom whipped out the board pieces and started using them. I wonder if it was innate or if it was just supposed to be a thematic parallel for us as viewers.
I mean, she does start playing a game on the bed after the mention of that. It could just be out of the ritual of it. I mean, Lakan used to from what he said, he was a big visitor of Mao Mao's mom, you know. Very often did they spend time playing games together. And it could just be, like, we don't know how present she is within her body. We know that the medicine isn't even really giving temporary relief anymore.
Man, I'm so excited to rewatch this series. I feel like with the added information, I feel like I'm going to have, even going forward and now, is going to make me reevaluate how I look at Mao Mao and her previous actions throughout the entire series. Because the idea of Mao Mao having the feelings that we're just learning about now being shown to us earlier in maybe more subtle ways and reasons, I think it's going to blow my mind.
I think I will want to look up what long-term effects of syphilis are.
Yeah.
I don't know enough to even understand exactly what Mao Mao's mother's like condition is like, what it feels like, what the different symptoms are.
We can call my dad live in the discussion because he's a
Tell
doctor.
us about syphilis.
Yeah, explain to us the entire history of syphilis. I'm not going to do that.
No, we'll just look it up.
You good?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.